Welcome back to Harbor. Let's turn now to the surrogates. In a moment, U.S. Congresswoman Heather Wilson of New Mexico. She's been on many times before. She supports, of course, John McCain for president. But up first, a major new governor, Tim Kaine of Virginia. He's an early Obama supporter who was on the short list for VP, we're told. Governor Kaine, tough question. I want to talk to you about Freddie Mac and Fannie Mae in a minute. We've got a 6.1% unemployment right now. We have the federal government owing almost $10 trillion under this administration. With dollars, well, people come to America on shopping sprees. The dollar's worth so little. What's Barack Obama going to do if he gets into office on January 20th to solve our economic downturn?
Well, he's going to try to juice the economy, Chris, by focusing upon the backbone of the American economy, which is helping middle-class Americans deal with fiscal stress and helping small businesses be successful. I think the fundamental difference between Barack Obama and John McCain is the way they describe what success looks like. For John McCain, success is cutting taxes on the largest businesses and the wealthiest individuals. For Barack Obama, success is how's the middle class doing with middle class tax cuts and how we can help small businesses be more successful by eliminating capital gains on small businesses and giving them tax credits if they buy health care for their employees. That is the fundamental difference between these two candidates.
So lower taxes for the people in the middle. Okay, gotcha. Now let me ask you about War and Peace. Lower taxes for folks in the middle and small businesses. That's really important. My dad ran a 5-man ironworking and welding shop. Small businesses are the backbone of the economy, and Barack targets his tax relief toward them, not to the businesses that are the ones that they're well off at the top end who don't need help. Let me ask you about the other issue. I think you opposed the war in Iraq. I certainly have questioned it on this program. I think that most Americans think it was a mistake to place the entire American army basically in Iraq in a pinned-down position where the president said today we can't spare one soldier. It's that significant. How would Barack avoid having gotten us into a situation like this? How will he avoid future situations like this? Well, how's his mindset different than Bush's or McCain's?
Well, let me just start, Chris. I'm going to correct you at the start. I thought there was a rationale at the beginning of the war for America to take part in multilateral action with other nations to remove Saddam Hussein from power. Now, the fact is we just blew by the whole issue of getting other nations involved and went at it essentially on our own, and that's part of the problem, and that's what Barack said was such a mistake. How's he going to avoid these problems? He's going to have good people around him and listen to him and exercise good judgment. If President Bush had listened to the people around him who really understood the military situation at the start, instead of going with some of the neocons who really didn't have much background in this area, he never would have engaged in this essentially unilateral war against Iraq.
Do you think he might bring in General Powell? Do you think he might bring in General Powell? Do you think he might bring in some of the name brands we know about? Will he keep Gates? Will he bring in the heavyweights, some Republicans as well?
I don't. I'm not privy to that, but I know this. I have been on board with the Obama campaign as a national co-chair since February '07. He prides himself, and he's very good at bringing the best people around him, because a president doesn't know everything about everything. You've got to have good people around you, and you've got to listen. And from the very beginning, Barack has said, and I know you realize this, if we go into Iraq, we're going to take our eye off the ball in terms of finishing what we need to do in Afghanistan, which he supported. Do you know the war in Afghanistan? It was like the lost war during the Republican convention. Very little mention about Afghanistan, about how tenuous things are there. We need to pull out of Iraq and redeploy more assets to Afghanistan so we can finish the job in the fight against terrorism that is the fight that we should have been weighing from the very days after 9/11.
Well, John McCain, in giving I thought, a rather good acceptance speech, never mentioned the name President Bush, which I thought was interesting. Nor, I think, did he mention the word Republican much at all.
The acceptance speech of John McCain was probably my favorite moment of both conventions, because he said, I'm now, after all of this time, I'm now going to be the change candidate. And so on the one hand, with Barack Obama, Chris, we got the change you can believe in. He's been talking about change since before his Senate race in 2004, the need to have better management of the economy and better national security. Okay. John McCain's late-breaking conversion to change is like, America, just give me one more chance, and I promise this time I'll change, and I really mean it. But that's not going to work with Americans who've seen him again and again support President Bush down the line. And I can't find one instance, even today, where he has proposed a policy that is at odds with what President Bush has been doing for the last 2 terms.
Have you encouraged Terry McAuliffe, the former chair of the DNC, to run for governor of Virginia, to succeed you? Have you encouraged him to do so? I tell you, I'm very intrigued. I didn't realize that Terry was interested until I heard him speak out in Denver, and he indicated he was. We've got 2 legislators in Virginia who have lined up to potentially run, and Terry now is coming in and saying he's thinking about it. They're all great. You know, it used to be, Chris, you know this, in Virginia, to get somebody to run statewide as a Democrat, it was like trying to, let's let Mikey eat the cereal. Nobody wanted to do it because it was so hard. But the fact that we now have such a competitive state.
Yeah, I know. Yeah,
we are in a competitive state. Yep.
I guess you've encouraged Terry to run. Anyway, thank you, Governor Kaine. It's great to have you on the show at any time.
Now joining us,
Republican U.S. Congresswoman Heather Wilson of New Mexico. Thank you, Congresswoman, for joining us. I have to ask you a couple of questions, very similar, just to keep it even, Stephen. The unemployment rate's drawn up to 6.1%. Knowing the pattern, it'll probably go up again. We're at that point in the cycle. What would President McCain do day one to turn around the economy, bring it up again?
One of the most important things, and Governor Kaine talked about this, but it has to do with taxes and keeping taxes low both on on individuals, but also on small businesses. The thing that he got wrong was that Senator Obama voted in favor of raising taxes on people making $42,000 a year or more, and that's a big difference.
What would John McCain do positively to get us out of this economic dump right now, this downturn? What would he do positively that hasn't been done before?
Number one is keep taxes low.
But they're already low, and we're in a 6th. The unemployment's rising under the current tax. No, because I'm asking a question you're not answering. What is he going to do?
You're not letting me answer.
No, I'm asking you again, 3rd time. What's he going to do?
The second thing that he's going to do, in addition to keeping taxes low on small business, is to make America less dependent on foreign sources of oil. We send $700 billion a year abroad to buy oil from people who don't like us very much, and we need to be more energy independent, and that'll help.
How does drilling offshore give us a separate supply of oil from the world supply of oil? How do we keep that from going on the world market, which drilled offshore?
It's a commodity. There is a world market, but if we can buy more oil, or not only oil, but natural gas, solar, nuclear, so that there is more American-made energy, we become less dependent on sources of supply that are unreliable overseas.
But why would we get that oil? Wouldn't it be on the world market? Wouldn't we have to bid for that oil? These are multinationals who do the drilling. Why would we get that oil? The Chinese could outbid us per barrel and buy it rather than we getting it. Why do you assume we would get it?
There are 3 parts to the strategy. One is to increase the supply of American-made energy. The other is to reduce demand through conservation and new technology. And the third is to invest in game-changing technologies that get us beyond the gasoline engine. In the short term, we need to increase supply. That we've got a supply problem, and that's a critical part of the answer.
I was trying to get at the first question. I'm sorry to be pushy. I apologize. Is John McCain committed to lowering taxes below the tax cuts of the Bush administration? In other words, will he do something further to stimulate the economy? Obviously, the current tax cuts can't work right now. We're at the bottom of a cycle right now. How do we get to move up in January so the unemployment rate doesn't continue to spike? That's what I'm asking. Does he do something further in terms of tax cuts?
What he said last week was we need to make the tax relief we have permanent, because if you remember, they're all temporary and they're all going to go up automatically unless Congress acts. And the other thing he has said is to cut taxes further where he can. Now, he wasn't specific about that last week, but we want to keep taxes low, particularly on small business, which is the engine of economic growth in America.
Well, maybe you can call them up and tell them we need more tax relief, because what we have now isn't exactly enough, because this cycle is going down. I'm looking at 6.1. It's the highest it's been in 5 years, Congressman. Aren't you concerned it's going to get deeper than that, the way it's going?
We're all concerned about the economy. We're all concerned about housing as well, and we've got to do things that are the right answer. And big government and higher taxes, it takes us exactly in the wrong direction, and that's where Senator Obama would want to go. I'm a big believer in private enterprise and in small business, which is where 7 out of 10 new jobs come from.
Okay, thank you very much. U.S. Congressman Heather Wilson of New Mexico, who's backing John McCain for president.